wife and I recently visited a train show. We were walking around and I decided that it would be fun to do another layout. It had been since I was a child since I had done one. I didn't want to do a full basement layout. I wanted to try something small since I hadn't done one before, and I thought a door might be a good idea. The layout is all Kato track. It's built on a standard size hollow core door, plus about 4 or 5 inches on the top end so we can get a double loop in. Along the way when we were designing it, we decided that we wanted a little more town, we wanted it to be a little more interesting, and we also wanted the trains to disappear because it is a double loop. So we built elevation into it, we raised the town and we raised a country scene, and the trains now run underneath of that. I grew up in Carroll County, Maryland. When I was growing up in the late 70s through the 80s, the Western Maryland had already been rolled into the chassis system, but we still occasionally saw some Western Maryland come through on the line that ran through Westminster at the time. That piqued my interest. I'm also interested in the chassis system. Growing up again in the 70s and early 80s, there was a lot of chassis power to be seen. My father grew up at a period of time where the B&O was very popular, and he was in the Navy and rode the B&O back and forth from Rhode Island to Baltimore. So when we built the layout, we really focused on those three, the Western Maryland and the B&O, and then moving forward in time, it gave us the ability to run chassis system as well. The layout is a small Appalachian-looking town, kind of reminiscent of Westminster, Maryland itself, and we decided to give it the name of Lauraville. 2 reasons: there is a real place in Baltimore called Lauraville, and my wife's name is Laura, and so she gave up the real estate in our basement so we could build this layout. And we have a custom lumber company named after her called the Lauraville Lumber Company on the layout. We do have the ability to do some switching. We built in a freight yard so people can bring freight cars in and out, unload, offload, and load on different elements. Maybe it's offload lumber that's needed for the Lauraville Lumber Company. Maybe it's just offloading some general freight. And there's also a maintenance yard there with a small locomotive maintenance shed. We also wanted the ability to kind of run steam. My father's an older man and he grew up in the steam era, so we put in a coaling tower and a water tower, and we occasionally will run some Western Maryland or some B&O steam on here. So the layout's really designed to run between maybe 1949 and 1970. And you'll see any given day you could see different types of power depending on my mood at the particular time. But I do really enjoy the modern locomotives, and I have a couple of Mac 90s and Dash 9s that occasionally see some time on the layout. We also occasionally run some passenger locomotives. I have an Amtrak that runs there. Occasionally you'll see a B&O run through, some passenger power, and every once in a blue moon you'll see a PA come through pulling a Pennsylvania that's been rerouted across our railroad, as we like to say. The layout is running on an NCE power cab system, more than enough power to run the entire layout. On the back of the layout, the background skyboard is actually a printed skyboard. On the far right and far left, my wife contributed her portion to the layout by painting the sky and painting the landscape. The large rock wall that you see behind the B&O Freight House is actually hand-carved pink foam. Same with the road coming down from the town of Lauraville into the valley where the yard sits. A lot of the scenery is woodland scenic scenery. Ballasting is all woodland scenics ballast. And again, I mentioned that all the track is Kato, and all the switches are controlled by Kato switch control. The water, the very little bit, but the water on the layout is actually layers and layers of Mod Podge with some tint put in it. All the people are a variety of different manufacturers, the same with the vehicles. The one other interesting thing about this layout is the Dan's Diner is actually a Pennsylvania heavyweight that we picked up. It's literally free at a train show. It has a full interior with people and painted chairs and tables. And the sign commemorates my dad's younger brother who passed away. So we did that as a tribute to him. This was really a joint effort. This was not all my work. My father, Donald Betz, spent a lot of time and a lot of effort doing the fine detail work that you see in this. He hand painted a lot of the figures. and he spent a lot of time putting in the trees. He actually painted every single one of the seeds in those gardens that made them look like a cabbage patch. And without his effort, I don't think the layout would have turned out as well as it has. I'm David Betz, and this is my N-scale layout on a door.